Hello and welcome, my name is John Valentine and today I will be going through a quick walkthrough of how to do a mood board. Specifically, we're going to be doing a Y2K mood board, so if you want to do anything regarding that, this video is for you. So we're going to be creating this in Canva today, so we're going to be going straight from scratch. I did want to start off by saying, obviously there's a bunch of templates already out there. As you can see, if you just look for a mood board, you're going to get a bunch of these, and you can even type in Y2K mood board and you'll get some good results and you get some good inspo already, so you can definitely just go off these and use some of the things I talk about in this video to enhance them. But we'll be starting off from scratch just to really show you how easy it is and show you the full process so you know every effect and everything that we're going to be doing. So let's just choose one of these mood boards right here. I'm just going to use this template just for sizing, so I'm just going to remove everything and go right up here and start it off by calling it my Y2K mood board. And then we just have this empty screen right here. So now we're ready to create. So now that we're ready to go, we can start off by having the background. So with that, we have a bunch of options. So first we can just choose one of these colors if you really just want to keep it basic. For example, if we go with the pink, if we go with the purple, or one of my favorites is also choosing one of these gradients, which is a really cool effect, which can definitely help with this kind of board. So we can use one of these. I would say for a Y2K, let's go for a sort of purple-ish pink vibe. So we can just take this one. I think this one looks good. And this one right here. And we can also go in our, of course, apps right here and go on to photos. So if you go into photos right here, you can type something like Y2K, and then all these options also pop up. So we have some options here like this, it works pretty well. And you can just click and drag it right onto the canvas. And as you can see, it'll be kind of replaced by this. So while the background color is one item, the photo will lay on top, and then if you have other photos, you can exchange them. So as you can see, I can kind of drag it here and just drag and drop it into that image. So you can also have a sort of combination of both, right? You can have a photo or a sort of background color, and then even do something like making it transparent as just kind of like an overlay, and there you go. So now we have 50% transparency, and then you can have this color as maybe a light blue or even a pink, right? Whatever works for you. So we're just going to be using one of these photos, so let's just go ahead and choose one. I'll say let's do this one right here. I like this one. It has a little bit of a pink hue. And then we're going to be starting with the frames. So frames are basically small images or small sort of fields where you can drag your images in. So you can either achieve those by getting, let me move that right here, by putting in frame right here, and then sometimes they will just pop up with certain things where you can put them, but this is just under, if you just type in frame right here, it'll just give you photos, right, because we're still in the photos. So we got to go under elements, and then we can just go under either a frame right here, as it's suggested for me, or you can just type something in, such as, iPhone, although it's not very Y2K, but I'm just giving you an example. And then you have an iPhone sort of size that you can drag in. And if you go under frames, all this with the cloud is where you can drag photos in. So let's start off by doing something like Y2K, and then we can go into frames, and then we'll already get all these presets that Canva already has on their own, right? So we can have something like this, and if you don't like that, you can also just go into the regular frames right here, and then you'll see all the basic shapes and all the other frames that they offer. And frames are great because then you don't have to finick around with the dimensions of pictures or anything, making sure it all lines up, because just like the, let's type in something like peach. So just like the picture before where it gets replaced, if you have a frame, right, normally you can just drag it on and then you have to kind of size it and make sure it works. But with a frame, you can just drag and drop it and it'll fill that frame, and then you can double click on it and then also move it around. So let's say that we have, let's say there's a team, let's call it, so yeah, there you go, we have a team right down here, right, and then it cuts off a specific person. Maybe you want to be in the picture, or you just want maybe you and your friend, so you can kind of crop them out just like that, and there you go. So now you just have those people in here, and then these people over here are, cut out or whatever. But either way, this is just for a good way to do that, and you can also make it smaller or even make it bigger. So if you just want, yourself in there, you can do something like this and go really full out, and then you can cut it as much as you want. And if you're here, you can, if you're on a Mac, you can hold Command and scroll, or use your trackpad, and you can go out. You can also do it manually down here. So if you're here and all of a sudden you're not sure where you are, you can fully zoom out and then double click, and then that will give you some more leverage to move that around as well. So this is, of course, just an example, so let's remove that. And this is where we can come in and start playing around. So let's go with some, let's go over the elements here, and let's go with some frames. For example, paper frames are really cool, so we can do something like this. We can have one of these, maybe move it around a bit like this, and then we can go back and use something like flowers, maybe something that fits. No, I don't think I like anything here. There you go, retro. See, that's pretty cool. They already have an option. Let's zoom in a little bit here. No, I don't think I like that. And you can just kind of look around and see what kind of frames would work, right? And let's say you also have something like a frame like this that you can then put into other things. For example, let's start adding objects. So when we go into elements as well, we can literally just type in Y2K and it'll really give you some really cool things. So this is photos. So photos and graphics are different because photos is just a full-on photo file like this, and graphics are basically like small little icons. They're just like this, and then you can use that to kind of play around. So when you type in Y2K, you already have a bunch of cool options that they give you. And if you do something like, let's say we want a digital camera, to show you what I mean. So let's say something like this. Let's find a cool digital camera, maybe under photos. You even see something like this. That's cool, right? And then we can play around with that. Make sure it doesn't lock in to the frames because sometimes it'll get caught in there and then you're going to place it in there, but you can do it the other way around, right? And put this in here. So how do we do that? Right now it's behind the camera. You're going to want to right click, layer, bring front or bring forward, and then you can size it accordingly. So then you can line that up right there and like that. And then let's zoom in and make sure this all aligns, and then you can have this really cool camera effect that you can use. Now, and before you move something accidentally or you don't want to move it around, you can click and select both items right here and then click group, and then they become one item. So now you can't accidentally move it again. So it's really fully in there. And then you can go back to photos, and then let's just type in something like, I don't know, friends. And then you can see, you can take your photo, drag it in there, and now we have this really cool effect as if you're in the camera. Very, very simple, very easy, and then we can really just start playing around with that. So these are some of the endless options that we have here. And then we can just kind of go from there. We can really start putting some stuff in there. So let's go back to the elements. Let's type in Y2K, and let's really make it so you can either drag and drop it wherever you want, or you can also just click it and it'll just appear right in the middle. And then of course you want to resize it accordingly. So let's add something like this. Maybe this doesn't really fit, I think. Let's add something like that, and we can add a few like that, and then you can do right click, layer, send to back, and then it'll be behind there, and then you can just kind of play around with that a little bit like that. There you go. That's pretty cool. And then you have your files here. You can do something like a star, and then you can even change the colors. So the colors, depending on the icon or the photo, some items or some elements will not let you change their color, but a lot of them will do. So you can, for example, if I want this to be pink, as you can see, it changes to that color, right? And you can either change it to your own colors, you can change it to your brand, so right now John Valentine, of course, or you can change it to the colors that it finds in the photos, right? So we have this camera, so it sees that there's a pink color, there's a black color from the buttons, and it'll take those colors, and then you can match it. And as you can see, color is the exact same as the camera. So that's really, really cool for that unified look of everything. All right, let's keep going. So I'm just going to start playing around with, you know what, I think I'm not fully satisfied with the background here. So let's do something. Let's see what we got, what else we got here. So we got Y2K. I think I like this one. You know what, let's do like a paper background. Let's see if we get something here. And then what you also can do is if you're looking for something specific, so let's say I want something pink and I don't want to keep scrolling, or I want something purple, you can go in here and then actually select a color, or even add your own, and then it'll give you everything, you can click again, that has this color. So there we go. So now we have this pink paper that we can replace this with. So we have something like this. I'm not sure if I like that. There you go. We have something like, actually, let's use that one. So that one's great. And if you want something else, you can also just keep switching around in colors, or click it again if you just want to go back to everything, or just down here as in clear all as well, right? So you have something like this. You can also do this. That's really cool. And don't forget, we have the opacity set. So that's why it wasn't blue, right? So if we go to 100%, again, we have the blue, but this is what I mean earlier. You can have those effects, right? So now we have this cool paper style effect, but we have it's purple because it's a blue paper photo with this pink background. So I actually like that. So let's align that and make sure it's at the back as well, send to back. So now it's behind everything. And then again, we can just sort of start going around. So now I want to add some, besides some frames, I want to add some text as well. So let's add some text. So these ones are some presets. So these are really, really cool. A lot of them honestly take most of the work from your hands. So you can really just kind of keep scrolling through and see if there's anything that you like. For example, this is actually kind of cool, but I don't think it really fits. Let's see what else we can do. Maybe this kind of a neon style effect. That's probably not really that much Y2K, but you can, just kind of go through and see if there's anything that you like. You can also just look for something. This one is more about the font names. Sometimes if you type in, it'll give you something, but generally speaking, this is more of a combination that already exists, and then after that you can also change the colors and so on. But if you have the heading or subheading here as well, you can also change their colors from there, right? And again, you have the colors here, so let's add maybe something like this, make it bigger, and then you want to add a specific font. So we have text styles. Again, you can change it here for heading or subheading, but let's go in fonts, and you can then type in something here. So for example, if you do something like a retro, right, then it'll start giving you something that is related. Again, fonts is always one of those things we just have to kind of click through and see what you can find. And similar to that, some fonts will let you do bold and italic and some won't, right? So for example, if I click on this one, again, also no bold and italic, and you can just kind of go through there. You can, well, this is just a pro feature, right? So if you don't have pro Canva, just make sure that you have everything, because sometimes it'll be behind that pro paywall, but you can just kind of go through there and go through and see what kind of font you like. I think I kind of like this font, but I'll make it blue actually, or actually I'll make it, let's keep it pink right here. Let's get it a little lighter going. There you go. So now we can use that and kind of do whatever we want here, right? So let's do establish 2025. Let's say we have something here. Let's put that right here. You can kind of add that right there, and you just play around with it, right? And then again, if you want any kind of effects, right, really just think about what you want and type it in. There's a really, really big chance that Canva has it built in. So let's say magazine letters, right? Something like this. That's what I'm thinking. No, I don't want to do that. Magazine letters. There you go. And then you can just start doing this, because this is a really great way for any kind of mood boards. And as you can see, some of them are just static images and some of them are GIFs or have effects already. So obviously if you're just going to print this, or if you're just going to download it as a picture and keep it somewhere, then obviously these effects are not really useful. But if you want to send it to your friends or anything, or use it as a video, obviously some of these effects are really cool and they really come in handy. And then they're already built in, so you really don't have to do much. But again, that depends on what you want to do. So you can do magazine letters. Sorry, let's do magazine numbers. You know what? Let's do like a, I don't think I like that one. Let's do this one. Let's do something that fits. That one kind of fits. And as you can see, like I said before, some of them will let you change the colors and some won't. So let's actually change it to more of this color, and then let's change this one to something like this, and that one to a darker one. Oh, that's a little too dark. Maybe that one. There you go. So then we can kind of have some fun with it. 20 right there. You put that in there. We go back to here. Let's use a different two. Let's use maybe this one right here. Yeah, let's use that one. Is that going to let us change the color? Yes, it does. Perfect. And then, you know what? We'll make the two the same color as the first two. Or actually, yeah, that looks better. Look at that. There you go. And then we can go back and get a, let's see if we can get a 5. I typed it in. Yeah, perfect. See, so you can really type in what you want, and Canva is really, really good at giving you everything that you need. So then we can kind of play around with it, and we have a 2025 right there. So it's starting to look pretty good. I mean, again, this is a mood board, right? So it's very, very personal opinion. I think I'm going to put that on the left here because you can read it better. So let's put that here, layer, center back. Wait, no, we don't want to do that. Bring to front, because then we're going to put it behind the picture. So just send backwards. That puts it back one level, and send backwards. You know what? I'm going to make sure that this is all the way at the back, and there you go. So now it's on top. That's great. And then you can do this. Maybe you can put your name there. Nope, you don't want to do that. And we can just kind of go from here, right? Again, let's go back to some frames. Let's add some frames. And we can do something like a star. We can do more pictures. Let's add a few. You can just do copy paste, right? Like that. You can do something like that. And you can even type in, let's do retro PC. Let's see what we get here. And look at that. Look at those amazing frames right here. Let me delete those right here actually, and put this one, because this is super fitting. And again, you can also change it here if you want. Let's make these buttons inverted, make it this color. There you go. And look at that. So we can go in here. Let's type in. Obviously, you're going to want to be doing this with your own photos. And again, own photos, you can just drag and drop like most websites nowadays. So we can do something like that, right? So this is really, really getting somewhere. And that's basically it for the most part, right? You really just want to gonna have some fun with it. But I hope that this video has taught you how to really implement most of these things. We have the frames, we have the icons, or elements. In this case, they're called graphics, showing you that what we can do with frames, what we can do with texts, what we can do with photos, background, layers, and everything. So other than that, this basically covers it. And again, this is a process where there's no right answer, right? So you're just going to want to have some fun with it, play around with it, and really let your creativity flow wild, and then go from there and see what you can make. So I hope you enjoyed this video and learned a lot. If you have any questions, please put it in the comments below. Other than that, my name has been John Valentine. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.